efforts and to take that moment to actually sit back and recognise the things that you've done. It's very rare that we sit down and take the opportunity to say congratulations, to say well done. So hopefully all of you will take that time to look around the room this afternoon and say well done to each other as well and enjoy it. So without further ado, let's welcome the man who has brought us all here today, our wonderful host, the President of Ireland, Michael D. Higgins.
A gúri cóir an gédal sias tugann sé áthas ar am héin is ar ma van céile saibhín agus an chláán éileach fíorcín fóilse ar a roimh go áras an útrán. Is ionach an rad an tómhacht atá ag muint leis le ocáidí mar seo má tugann sé seans dúin I rihan saoir cosal iad sanatá gobar tríon bhliain. An cuid is mód an obaratár siúlácha tá sé dionach, ach tá sé tábhachtach agus bín tortha an hána haibris sin de airachtáil trína glúnta atá le teacht. May I just say first of all how delighted I am to welcome on behalf of Sabina and myself and indeed our entire family to welcome all of you to Áras an Uachtaráin, and I extend a very special Céad Míle Fáilte to those of you who have travelled long distances to be with us today. And I hope that you enjoy your visit to Áras an Uachtaráin. And as our excellent MC has just said, don't confine yourself to what is in here. All of what is outside the music continues. And we have been blessed, when I think back over the years since Sabina and I came here, about the wonderful artists who have come and the great enthusiasm they bring to, that they feel and communicate in wanting to play in Áras an Uachtaráin. I mentioned people who have travelled very, very long distances, including my nephew Kevin, who's from Sydney in Australia, and indeed a number of friends of his from Australia who are travelling. Often, well, it made me think actually about my family's connection with Australia. It starts in 1852. Of the 7 members of my grandfather's family, 5 emigrated between 1852 and 1860. And I think to work mostly, and then in the next generation, my sister, my Aunt Bridget immigrated, and my Uncle Patrick is buried with the railway workers in Toowoomba. And then in the next generation there is Kevin, and I'm delighted that Kevin's son Keelan is with us as well. But when I think back to that time, the difference where we are now in relation to 2023, it is just a few years here in this very same building when it was an imperial establishment that Daniel O'Connell came up with the Famine Committee, and the then representative of the Crown said, I'm willing to listen to you, but you're wasting your time because what you're proposing is in fact not possible. The laws of economics must take their course, and if there was a better solution, the government's advisors in London would have it. And they went back into Dublin and they had a meeting, and they said, right across the newspapers, all across the different papers the following days, they've offered us nothing. And it is a matter for me of very, very proud that from this place from which death sentences like that were issued, that we are here, all of us, and that we are independent, and people from new nationalities have come to join us, and the people from different traditions can meet here. Ach háir heachas an dáran go bhfuil muid sréir chun áteán go héana láhairt agus í úsáid agus tá sin úsáid in Áras an Uachtaráin gach leabhar tháina mé níos móna de bhliain á hen. How good it is to know that we are able now, some of the decisions of the 19th century I had the privilege to revoke, and others too, and I think in a way, in many, many ways, it is your house, Áras an Uachtaráin, the home of Irish presidents since 1938. So please enjoy every moment of this afternoon, be it Isteach and Jack Shaw, New Taven with. I think, as said, I wanted particularly to use this particular garden party to pay tribute to those who give so much, and as I have just said, go Joan voluntarily, the respect that they are due. And I wanted to respect referees in all sports and in all codes. I often think about my relationship to sport. I visited my first soccer game at the age of 16 on the back of a red Honda in Marcus Field in Limerick. It was a funny time, really, because in order to go to a soccer match, you had to be on the vigilance committee for the GAA. It was about your only way of getting to see it. But it was also, and then that other neglected sport, which I played, the only one I played inter-county, was, of course, was Leroy Loiv. I was handball. But then when I came to Galway, then I was 19, and I remember going to the soccer match. And I suppose really now that I've been mentioning respect for referees, I must apologise to all those supporters of Matt Lone and otherwise that we said unkind things about in his park. But what I think is very, very important was that business of what a great strong thing it is in Ireland, that we will be able to go with families and walk to venues and walk home and discuss the matches and the games. But more and more importantly, the kind of aggression that makes it competitive between people has no place in the Irish experience of sport. And I just wanted in particular all of the different codes I have invited here this afternoon to thank those of you. It isn't that you're only Quinol and Shiocon, that you're keeping the peace, but the point about it is, and it differs across the different sports, the knowledge that you bring and that you need and that you deliver in your work as referees. I do think too that in some of the places the rules are changing fast, so you need to be very up to date. I think as well something that is important in relation to sport is an mícar an tábhacht atá bhaint le seans a chuairt a gach poist, that to give every child its chance. I think there's no doubt whatsoever, and you sense it in the world, you sense it nationally, internationally. It is a time, because we have such new responsibilities now in relation to eco-leocht, in relation to ecology, our environment, what we hand down to future generations, that we be cooperating rather than dividing more. We don't need more divisions. And one of the things that comes to the fore very much in the groups that Sabina and I meet when we visit the communities around the country, and I do know the great warmth that both of us have felt from that, is the empathy and compassion, and how that in fact lessens the gaps that divide us. And it also encourages us to seek the freedom and the resources and power to uplift those who are vulnerable. I think these are common values. We are not by nature as Irish people individualistic people because of the circumstances affected us externally and all of the circumstances that we faced internally. It is more of our nature to be sharing and to be caring for each other. And I really do think, I was thinking over the next coming years that perhaps I should put an emphasis on the importance of respect. Respect between ages, respect for language, respect for differences of opinion, the necessary respect that is there for discourse to take place. It isn't a time for aggression. And actually watching it is maybe when you're 82 you notice it anyway, is that if you have come out of a tradition of Micheál here on a Sunday afternoon, the rest of it, and people said Emma, Horandlina, for real, and the rest of it, the fact of the matter is this kind of aggression that is sometimes in sport is quite an important thing, and it is based on a rather limited repertoire of skills. In the end of the day, sport is sport, and people, whatever club you're shouting for, whoever you're for, you respect excellence. And I think, therefore, that's why I think it was very important that that would be the emphasis we would put on today's garden party. And all those who are working voluntarily, I think it is the idea, by the way, that it is some or others. Really, any misguided parent that thinks there's any intelligence in shouting at a referee are really people in many cases. They actually, before they make a previous assumption, and that is that their children are possessions, which of course they're not. Their children are persons, and that in fact actually the example that is given will be very, very important. And all of that is very, very important in upholding the integrity of our sports. And I think we must work to recover anything we've lost and encourage and deepen what we have. I think that the idea as well in relation to the question, John B. Keane wrote, I think there's a man from Clare, wrote about the great difficulties that there is in moving from the heroism of playing for the county and suddenly you're kind of, in many, many cases. In the end of the day, what it is that those, in fact, who practice sports of different kind with integrity, these are very, very, they always will be able to draw something from it. Finally, I should say one of the things that's very, very important in relation to when things do go wrong, so many things are just at the moment, it is that the importance of there being fragrancy, accountability. When you're here in our Sanook Throne often in the evening, and when I'm thinking back over it and reading what is happening internationally, if I was asked to say what is the single greatest threat to our democracy all around the world at the present time, it is the absence of accountability. It is the growing realm of the unaccountable that threatens us more than anything else, be it in relation to technology not delivered democratically, be it in relation to those who exercise corporate power, be it in relation to those who have alleged self-governing professional bodies and authorities that are supposed to enforce standards. The growth of the realm of the unaccountable is the single, it isn't coming from the people, it isn't poor people, and others, and things like that. It is from that realm, and it is something we have to be very clear about. And that is why sport too has to create an environment that promotes accountability and empathy and respect and gratitude. Very early on when I was starting here in the Oris and I was addressing altogether about 800 young people, and I used the last phrase of that great, great man, William Williams. He said, be the arrow, not the target. Understand what is coming at you and be able to exercise moral choices. So all of you here present today, I want you, that your work is deeply appreciated. Maar ook er aan de heren, maar wie zo'n krielief als gachret dat je aan taken. Agus gwyn ga graag as banach torri don toki, is gachret a megert siúlagis and sample a tash of a horde. Your dedication in the face of adversity has served as an inspiration to us. And all those as well, that are great people who are extending all the different sports to include those with particular impairments. I think that is these are issues of rights and there are issues of participation. Because there's one thing to say you are recognized as a citizen, it is another to be allowed the full opportunities of participation. May I tell you, we have special people here. I do want to take this opportunity to welcome in a Scottish referee, Michelle O'Neill, who has been selected to officiate at the forthcoming FIFA Women's World Cup to be co-hosted by New Zealand and Australia in the summer. Trace Liam Dafford, Scottish So it's within our communities and through the discourse they hear, as well as the formal education, that our young people are first exposed to the concept of citizenship. We have to consider how we engage with each other and how we speak to each other and how we listen or perhaps don't listen. Those early experiences of community life differ in terms of resources and opportunities of inhabiting in conditions of change. It is an unfortunate fact that as I'm speaking and you're listening in many cases, those who have contributed least to the pollution and poisoning of our planet and making it vulnerable are the people who are paying the highest price in desertification and the death of their animals, the deaths of their way of life, and so forth. So it's not a time for division on these important issues. We must all cooperate and make our contributions, big and small, and all the contributions come together. Sometimes we must resist the temptation to think that these challenges are too big. I think in many cases what is wonderful as well is to see at the moment the judging for the tidy towns is on all around the country. And that's a great example to see all the people, the intergenerational solidarity it has created. And to see and witness that activism and advocacy, it's one of the great pleasures of being President of Ireland, of being travelling over this, going all over Ireland as we have. And I feel that that's something that's very Irish and strong. Whether we're celebrating something as we have, or whether sharing the grief of the people in Chrysler when I was in Donegal, and how important it was that people from across the border and others came to help, and people were willing to assist, and people. There is nothing wrong with having an open and generous and vulnerable heart. And let us remember the collective power we hold as a community. We can build a society where those ethical values are cherished, where accountability is delivered, where abuse of any form has no place. And we really have to stop saying things like, for example, that something is a result of a culture of this or that or all the rest of it. Abuse is wrong. And where it has happened, it must be addressed and faced, and we must take responsibility for it. Then say, when all of this is out of the way, we can now invite men and women, and we can invite others to join our forces and so forth, and be in professions that they can be proud of, and upskill themselves. But there's no point in saying that there is sliding away from anything. Let's face it. Let's recognise wrong where it happened, and let's move on. And I have no doubt whatever as President of Ireland that we have more than the capacity to do that. But the one thing, if there is a lesson in history, evasion is disaster. Amnesia is disaster. Good memory, ethical commitment, the ability to go on to a new place and create a better world is our great gift. Let us create an environment together where not only our athletes can flourish and our referees can officiate safely with confidence, but where all our communities can thrive, thanks in no small part to the active participative engagement of its members. I am so pleased that we're joined by today, and the musicians. You know, and everything in Ireland is interesting. They're always a tofishia takakas itsam a hagen gakra toletiacht. They understand what is going to happen. And I have no doubt that by harnessing the strength of our collective spirit, we can overcome any challenges before us. However challenging it is. Let us all be the architects of an Ireland that shines as a beacon of ethical societies, where the values of respect, fairness and compassion are not just empty rhetoric, but the pillars upon which our many and many varied communities are built and sustained. Last night I was with the Chilean community and those who came and made their lives in Ireland. Well, what is interesting to hear the Chilean ambassador say, how it is to Ireland internationally, countries in Asia and Africa and South America and elsewhere, they turn automatically as a country whose experience they know, they respect and welcome as a partner of peace in responsibility in addressing all of these issues of justice, ecology and ethics. All of today and all of our other garden parties would not be possible without a lot of preparatory work that takes place here. I do want to thank all of the others, our staff that will look and so forth, who do so with such generosity and enthusiasm. The OPW, the Gardaí, our civil defence, John of God's colleagues. But today, our MC Jackie Hurley, a done a sore job, and my heartfelt thanks to the musicians and entertainers, Maid McKenna TBL Brass Band, Failure Oriel Group, Elaine Carroll, Angus MacAuliffe Duo, Like a Version, Niamh Regan, Dave Litton and Bell Levin. All of them have lifted our spirits already and who are continuing. Agus mara dúirt me, ní críoch nen sin seo. It doesn't end here, but it goes on outside afterwards. Míle buíchas agus buin sean of us an tróna. Arish áhas ar mach na hénig ar mas an saibhín is gachtain in áras nó an gur a chance. Do you wish chance ag possibly buin sean of us an tróna. Berbana.